Scarcity, Why Having Too Little Means So Much, by Sendhil Mullainathan. This summary is brought to you by Hook My Book. The book, Scarcity, is about the effects of scarcity on human behavior. The author explores how scarcity affects our personal life, our mindset, daily decisions and social interactions. The book is thought-provoking and will change the way you think about the effects of scarcity on various aspects of life. Deadlines can increase productivity because they create a sense of scarcity. When time is scarce, we spend more time on the task at hand and are less likely to be distracted. In organizations, meetings usually start out unfocused, with people meandering off topic. But halfway through the meeting, something changes. The group realizes that time is running out and becomes serious. They hammer out their disagreements, concentrate on the essential details, and leave the rest aside. The second half of the meeting nearly always produces more tangible progress. Psychologists have studied the benefits of deadlines, and they've found that they usually make people more productive. For example, in one study, undergraduates were paid to proofread 3 essays. The students who had to turn in one proofread essay every week ended up being more productive than the students who had a long deadline. Deadlines don't just increase productivity. They can also change how people enjoy their time. In a study by Jamie Kurtz, college seniors who felt they only had a short time left until graduation tried to get more out of every day. They spent more time engaging in activities and reported being happier. So, deadlines are effective because they create scarcity and focus the mind. Scarcity means that there's not a lot of something. When there's not a lot of something, people have to be careful with it. The study looked at how people behaved under conditions where they had less blueberries in a video game. The blueberry poor were more accurate with their shots than the blueberry rich. This is because the rich just let the blueberries fly and the poor aimed more carefully. The rich did not earn anywhere near twice as much in the course of each game. The game was designed to simulate being poor. Scarcity alters how we look at things, it makes us choose differently. This creates benefits, we are more effective in the moment. But it also comes at a cost, our single-mindedness leads us to neglect things we actually value. The authors discuss the concept of less mind. They explain that when we are in a state of scarcity, our bandwidth is taxed and we are less able to focus on other things. The examples used to illustrate this concept are from different walks of life and show how distractions from within can be just as disruptive as distractions from without. Scarcity works beyond conscious. Imagine yourself working in a quiet, pleasant office, free of disruptions. However, when you try to focus on your work, your mind is pulled away by trains of thought related to your personal concerns like home loan or medical bills. These trains of thought pull you away even when you are trying to focus elsewhere. Scarcity is involuntary, happening below conscious control. Poverty or scarcity taxes the mind by reducing fluid intelligence and executive control. This suggests that the poor have less effective cognitive capacity than those who are well off because some of their mind is captured by scarcity. The bandwidth tax is the mental stress that comes from trying to focus on tasks while feeling overwhelmed by food or other concerns. For example, dieting is more than hard. It is mentally taxing. Dieters, when doing anything, should find they have fewer mental resources because they are partly preoccupied with food. Studies have found that dieters perform worse on cognitive tests. Scarcity attacks mindset. Due to the presence of scarce resources, the mind can become overloaded and less effective. This can lead to a number of behavioral changes, including distraction, forgetfulness, impulsivity, and carelessness. When we think of having very little time, money, calories, we focus on the physical implications of scarcity, less time for fun, less money to spend. The bandwidth tax suggests there is another, perhaps more important, shortfall. We must now get by with fewer mental resources. Scarcity doesn't just lead us to overborrow or to fail to invest. It leaves us handicapped in other aspects of our lives. It makes us dumber. It makes us more impulsive. Scarcity creates scarcity. The packing example illustrates how a lack of scarcity creates trade-off thinking. We pack our suitcases loosely, not filling every nook and cranny, which leaves room for slack. Slack is the leftover space in our suitcase after we've packed it with enough items. When we experience abundance, we don't have to worry about trade-offs and can just add items without taking anything out. But when we experience scarcity, like when we're running low on money, adding an item requires taking something out, and there's not as much slack. This mindset is a feature of abundance, and slack is the result. This explains why the poor have less slack and the rich have more. Where does all the slack go? Some items that people often buy in bulk and store in their kitchens or garages are cabinet castaways, which are food items that have been bought but have not been used in a long time. These items can take up a lot of space in a kitchen, and they can be expensive to store. People also tend to buy more of these kinds of items when there is more slack in their lives, because they do not feel as compelled to use them all. This can lead to inefficiency and waste. Marketing researchers conducted a study by asking shoppers how much they spent in a certain area and how accurate they were in knowing the prices. The less affluent were more accurate in knowing prices and the total price of their items, while the rich were only accurate in knowing the prices of items that they bought frequently. Predictions are truer for those who actually have the scarcity mindset. Poors are not always more rational. But, they have a specific skill: they are better at making ends meet today. They make a dollar go further. They become experts in the value of money. This expertise can make them appear more rational, less prone to inconsistencies, in some contexts. Borrowing goes hand in hand with scarcity. Payday loans are a way for people who are already struggling to get by to get some extra money, but sometimes they can't afford to pay them back. Payday loans can be a way to get around your debt, but they can also be a way to get even deeper in debt. People who are already struggling might take on more payday loans because they don't have any other options, and they can't afford to pay them back. Scarcity leads us to borrow and pushes us deeper into scarcity. People short on money patch together short-term solutions and ignores long-term benefits. The author argues that people with scarcity mindset often neglect the important but not urgent tasks. This can lead to short-sightedness and poverty trap. The scarcity trap is a situation where a person is constantly in debt, even though they could easily break free if they had just a little more time. The reason why this happens is that the person is focused on the short term, rather than the long term, and does not appreciate the power of compounding. Designing for scarcity. To be free from a scarcity trap, it is not enough to have more resources than desires on average. It is as important to have enough slack, or some other mechanism, for handling the big shocks that may come one's way at any moment. The shocks can be anything like medical emergencies or accidents. Many analysts are stymied by the behavior of the poor. Low-income training programs in the United States, for example, suffer from absenteeism, dropouts, and a failure by the intended recipients to sign up. Microfinance programs in the developing world bemoan the fact that their clients do not invest enough in high-return activities. Instead, loans are used to pay off other debts, to fight fires, like school fees that have come due, or simply to buy consumer durables. Education and training are important to tackle scarcity crisis. When there is not enough money, people will usually start to borrow money to make up for it. This is called a debt trap. When there is too much money, people will usually start to spend all of it and not save any. This is called an abundance then scarcity cycle. Buffer stock needs to be built during times of abundance. If time is where you expect scarcity, this means leaving some extra room in your schedule, for no good reason, other than being able to move your many projects and obligations around at no cost. With money, it means having and building a rainy day account, even if you do not feel terribly flush. The tug of scarcity can be strong. But understanding its logic can minimize its negative consequences. We can go some way toward scarcity-proofing our environment. Like investing in a smoke alarm or setting up a college savings account for your new baby, a singular moment of insight can have lasting benefits. End of the summary. Thanks for listening.